Let's roll. Level 3 has begun. This is Sports Rage. The Golden State Warriors are up 116-102 on the Lakers right now. 7 minutes and 21 seconds remaining. They got a 14-point lead. They're laying 10.5 in game. The total, 253.5. As far as it's a track meet. This game, you have to wonder if the Lakers are eventually going to tap out. Now the Golden State are up by 14 with 7 minutes left. The Clippers. The Clippers were shorthanded tonight. They were getting 9.5. They've been leading all night. They've been up big all night. Phoenix are chipping away. They've cut the lead to 10 right now, 91-81 with 7 minutes left in this game. The Pelicans are up by 15 on the Blazers right now. Man, we rolled the dice with San Diego tonight. Can they do it again? Can they come back? Because this is pretty crazy. And we said, it's not shocking. I said, listen, they're either going to score a bunch of runs early or they're going to get no hit. They're not getting no hit, but they only have 3 hits, and they're losing 5-0 tonight. They were losing 8-0 last night. They came back and won 9-8. Clearly the momentum did not carry over. The Milwaukee Bucks beat the Boston Celtics tonight. Giannis got hurt. I don't know how severe it is, though, but he left the game with a calf strain, so I don't think – you never know, though, right? Calf strains can be deceptive. But the other story of that game, the Boston Celtics managed not to have a freaking free throw tonight, which is like, is this an April Fool's joke? Are we getting punked? Are we getting pranked? No, it's true. They didn't have a free throw attempt tonight. First team in NBA history. I don't know. It's never happened before, so I'm going to say that I don't know about like a team winning the championship that did this. It's almost like losing to the Jets in the regular season in the NFL. You don't win the Super Bowl. Only the Patriots have. That's a true stat. Shout out to everyone joining us on SiriusXM, Channel 159 of the SportsGrid Radio and Television Networks, Level 3. This is Sports Rage. LeBron James on the free throw line right now. Our boy Mo Khan is going to step up, and then we'll get his thoughts on UConn's dominance through the NCAA tournament. The numbers are in. They had like 14 million viewers for the men's national championship game last night, which I think is actually pretty good, considering nobody really knows who these kids are, and it wasn't the most entertaining tournament, but the numbers were up throughout the tournament, but the women's final actually beat them. The women's final peaked at 24 million, averaged 18.7 million. So a lot of people watch a lot of college basketball over the last couple of weeks, and one player that, even though he didn't win the championship, very similar to Caitlin Clark, and they're different. You know, they're not the same phenoms. I get it, but Zach Edey, even though he didn't win the championship, did himself a lot of good this week. And we'll get into this with Mo. It's Masters week this week. Carver and Farrell are fired up on Coast to Coast. Let's see what they said about the Masters today.
Will the Scotty dominance at Augusta and for this 2024 calendar year continue this week?
I think it does, Mike, and I think it's all because of the conditions of the golf course. I just think, from talking to some players out there today and listening to a bunch of the press conferences, the golf course is very firm. And this golf course, you've always needed to hit it high, and Scotty Scheffler is a player that hits it higher than anybody with his irons. He's a robot. It's hard to describe when you go watch him in person. He hits it exactly where he's trying to pretty much every time. The only knock on his game has been his putter, but I trust him on Bermuda and bent greens. It's just the Poa-annua he's just had a tough start to the year on. And honestly, the firmness of the golf course, to me, shrinks the field considerably. If it was a really soft Masters, which it may be soft on Thursday, we're expecting to get some weather, Mike, on Wednesday night into Thursday. So that could keep the field a little bit tight in the first 36 holes, but it is going to eventually get firm because of how firm they already have it on a Tuesday afternoon. So I like Scotty this week. I like a bunch of guys, but I mean, it's hard not to start and love Scotty at this golf course.
There's Smiley Kaufman with Mike Carver. And listen, not a lot of people want to get in front of Scotty Scheffler right now, despite such low odds for him to win the Masters. I get the feeling that he probably will win. So I'm not opposed to somebody taking him. One thing, if you look at the Masters, history repeats itself a lot. And like first time, if it's your first time playing in the Masters, you're not going to win, right? It's just it just is. And the history of the tournament tells us this. It's one of those deals where experience actually does matter. And you want to talk about how limited it's happened, actually. Only 3 players have won the Masters in their first attempt. And it happened in 1935. And it happened in 1979. 3 players. Horton Smith in his first Masters. Gene Sarazen in 1935. We should note, so it happened in the first Masters because it was the first one ever. So really 2 times. That's deceptive. It's not really 3 times, it's 2 times because it was the first tournament ever. Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pitch, the players, some people in the bus, and everybody else in between. Level 3 has begun. Shout out to all of our affiliates who are joining us right now. We've been throwing it down on Sirius XM, channel 159 of the SportsGrid radio and television networks. The mightier 1090 ESPN radio, the 50,000-watt juggernaut. SoCal in the house right now. Speaking of SoCal, the Lakers are losing 119 to 104. No AD tonight. The Warriors are up by 15 with 5 minutes remaining. Last night at Petco, there was an epic comeback. San Diego was down 8-0. They came back. They won the baseball game 9-8. Tonight they're down 5-0, but they have put a run up on the board. Can they come back 2 consecutive nights? If you think that they can, they're plus 700 right now on the money line. The in-game total right now is 8.5. And you know what? I think that's the way to go here right now. We're already at 6 runs. We're only in the 6th inning. We only need 3 more runs here. San Diego probably are going to score a couple of more runs, even if they don't come back and win this game. And it wouldn't be shocking if the Cubs put a couple of more runs up on the board. So from an in-game perspective, I don't have a problem with going over the 8.5 that has been set right now. So the UConn Huskies cut down the nets. And Hurley, say what you will about Hurley. He's a great coach, but I understand that he's a difficult guy to like. And he immediately said after last night that what they accomplished was harder than what the Florida Gators accomplished in going back-to-back because he had different players. And now you're starting to push it. I like Hurley. I like his confidence. But now, we're better than the Florida Gators. And we'll get our boy Mo Khan, who's going to step up and take on this. Because if we went head-to-head with this UConn team against the Florida Gators team that went back-to-back, and I don't want to be one of these old-school dudes that said that the new kids wouldn't have a chance, but the Florida Gators are better than the UConn Huskies. The Florida, and we'll tell you why on the other side. This is Sports Rage.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere. right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. Like, the word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. Like, the fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
SportsRage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. I'm Morency. It's 124 to 110 right now with under 3 minutes left. The Warriors are up by 14. We're about to beat the Lakers at the Crypt. Mo Khan steps up and a lot of stuff to get to with Mo. Play-by-play man does basketball. Did the CIS championships. Voice of the Montreal Alliance played football. TSN statistician, jack of all trades. So, Mo, UConn cut down the nets. We thought that they would, only because I didn't think anyone else was good enough to beat them or had as much. It just had a complete enough sort of package to beat them. And it'd be foolhardy to get too premature right now about next year already. But, okay, so Duke are the favorites because they've got a couple of big-time recruits coming in, but they have big-time recruits coming in every year. And they have had for the last couple of years, and they still haven't won. Coach Krzyzewski's not there anymore. So they don't have their ace in the hole anymore with the legendary coach on the sidelines. I really don't see any reason why UConn can't win 3 championships in a row.
Yeah, Gabe, when you look at the Big East, right, it's very competitive. I mean, they could have sent like 10 teams, it's like 3 teams at the end of the day. And for UConn, you think about their history, Gabe, right? It was 10 years ago when the war was happening, the arms race was happening for conference realignment. If you recall, UConn thought they're going to go to the ACC and got blocked by Boston College and was in the abyss of what they were for a basketball program and football program at the time. And now you look at it today, where you and I, we spoke about it last week on Twitter. Dan Hurley was almost the St. John's head coach than being the UConn head coach, right? So there's a lot of moving parts that kind of came together for UConn to be what they are presently speaking here. And
yeah, but yes and no, but you're also forgetting that their last coach before Hurley in between also won a championship. Yeah. So, they're a blue blood program. It's not like Hurley built this program up. That's the one thing we'll say. Listen, he's done a great job, but he didn't build it up. They had, they had conference issues, but, Kevin Ollie won a championship with them, too.
Right, but the Kevin Ollie fiasco was in a mess, right? When Hurley took over, and if you remember a few years ago, I think they were like 10-7. They got ripped by Marquette, one of the Big East teams at the time, and UConn was at its lowest of lows. He said, "Get us now because you won't get us later on," and it proved to be prophetic from what he said. That this team for the last 2 years, not 2.5 years, have become a juggernaut for where they once were under Jim Calhoun. And Gabe, they can run it again next year. There's no question about that, right? If Hurley gets in the right guys as he's done so far through recruiting and through the transfer portal, if he does go through that route, they have a chance to run it again.
Why would he go? Why would he go through the transfer portal though?
If there's one or two guys, right, that might want to come join UConn.
That's I was just going to say. I was just going to say that's why they win, because they don't. In a very similar way to the Michigan Wolverine football team. Hurley, he doesn't go that route. That's why I think they can win. All these teams that, whatever, dude, it's like moving parts. It's like, and you know what I mean? It's like, oh, Villa's leaving like Indiana State. So what? Like, who cares? He's going to the St. Louis Billikens. Good for him. You know what I mean? Like, is there anyone, you know what I mean? Like, UConn don't need other people's players. That's the whole point. That's why I was going to say what makes him so good. Everybody else can transfer and say, oh, we got this guy and that guy, but you're not going to put it together and have the team and the team concept that UConn have on a yearly basis now. The parts are interchangeable on UConn. That's why I think they can win next year.
No, they can definitely do so. And you made the point about Duke for what they have coming with Cooper Flagg and the kid from Africa who might go number 2 in the NBA draft in 2025 after Cooper Flagg. The thing is, though, right, we don't know what Duke's going to be, right? Kentucky's probably going to be on the downward for the time being until they hire a proper coach who gets the program back up to where they want to be. So who is really going to be the competitor towards UConn? It might lie in the Big East with Marquette and other teams in that conference outright. And now the new Big Ten.
I don't buy into that either. Like dude, every year people, Marquette and Creighton. And the whole Big East thing. Like, you know what I mean? How good, like, really is it? You know what I mean? I'm just sort of being real.
Internally, it is competitive, right? But externally, Marquette blew it when they had a chance to get to the Final Four. And I think now for where we are in the new age of college basketball moving forward here, Gabe, the question that will come up here is going to be the recruits. Are they going to buy into your theory of what you can be? Dan Hurley has done it with guys who are grizzled, not 18-year-olds that John Calipari would bring into Kentucky and hope they can go on a run and win 6 in a row at the tournament, which he has not done in years. So I think now, if you get the right formula in place, and you're correct about the fact that interchangeable parts are there for UConn, but if you get the right formula in place for the core group, and as I mentioned before with the NIL and transfer portal, they get 1 or 2 veterans in there to maintain that high-level status, because Hurley loves those 3rd and 4th-year players. They're going to be tough to beat next year, and there's no question if they stay injury-free, they might be back in the Final Four at this time next season.
I'll bet you. We already have a bet on the thing. I'll bet you they're not going to bring anybody in. Yeah, I bet you UConn are like, why would a team that won 2 titles let's go on a transfer portal and bring some other kids in when they already have their own kids? They already got their guys that they replaced their own guys with.
Not like 10 guys here, Gabe. Like
so let me ask you, Mo, how did it work out for Hunter Dickinson in Kansas? Like, I knew that would happen. He scored 1 million points for them, and they weren't good. Like, you know what I mean?
But they weren't good from the get-go. They were backed up coming into the tournament, right? We knew they were going to be a 1 and done or 2 and out at that point.
Yeah, but they weren't great. They weren't great in the regular season either.
No, they weren't.
BYU went in there and beat them. Like, they you know what I mean? They got, like, I'm just saying, I'm just being real. Like, I'm telling you, man, like this whole, like they're transfer portal teams and like whatever, like transfer portal teams help those mid-tier teams and stuff, but championship teams, Mo, they don't go that route. Like you got to get your own guys. We'll see, like Ohio State are doing it. They're a good example now in football, which I can't argue with them because they're getting the best of the best from everywhere. Like they're not playing around with it, so I can't dispute that, but I don't think in basketball it matters all that much. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's like, you know what I mean? Like, so the FAU kids are going to follow Buddy to Michigan. They're going to follow May to Michigan. All the kids on the Sycamores are already basically going to the St. Louis Billikens. It's sort of like, you know what I mean? It doesn't really have a massive impact on anything, though. You know what I mean? In my opinion.
But
like, there's no like
blue blood.
Yeah, but like, if you're a blue blood, exactly. Like, if you're a blue, you don't care about that point guard from Columbia that's available or something. It's like, all right, good for you. Like the sort of the Princeton point guard wants to transfer. The kid I have is better than he is. Like, I'm just talking from UConn's perspective. Like, look at the Michigan Wolverines. So far, they lost 18 guys, okay, to the NFL, to the combine alone.
Right.
They haven't brought in anybody from any school. Like, literally anybody.
Yeah, but also keep this in mind, though, Gabe, right? Once you lose 18 guys, in the case of Michigan, those guys who were in the bubble of saying, maybe I want to transfer out, realize, hey, you know what? I got a chance to play now and be a day one starter for the Wolverines come week one against whoever they have in late August, early September. So in the case that is for basketball, where the sample size right now for the NIL and transfer portal has been small so far, we're going to find out now, Gabe, right? The blue bloods out there, right? How will Kentucky react? How will North Carolina react? How will Duke react? How will Arizona react? How will Michigan react? These are the teams that we've become accustomed to seeing play deep in tournaments in 20, 30 years ago. So how will these teams react now and try to find the right formula, not to duplicate what Dan Hurley's done, but to try to find the right formula that can get them back to where they want to be, which is to be in the Final Four, if not win the championship on that Monday night.
People are just going to try to buy to do it. Like Dusty May got to Michigan and he told them point blank, we need NIL money. Right? So if you want to get players, we're going to need to pay players. Thing is, though, you don't even have to pay basketball players that much. $200K, $150K, it's not a lot.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk groups everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. Like the word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. Like, the fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
SportsRage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I'm Morency. We're kicking it with Mo Khan. So, as I stated, UConn, I do think they can win again next year. Just for the record, they're 14-1 too. That's what surprises. They're not even the favorites. Duke are the favorites next year because they got Cooper Flag coming in. So they're 10-1. The Houston Cougars, whatever. Like, are we really going to buy into this? I've been guilty of it, but no. They're 14-1 as well with UConn. That's what I'm saying. Like, UConn don't get a lot of respect from the odds makers and the public because they don't have those sort of flashy players. But as far as the Florida Gator comparison, it was a different era when those teams would stay together for a couple of years. You know, Leitner and Hill were together and the Florida Gators were together. But it's not just the togetherness. Like, out of all the players on UConn last night, how many of them are going to be in the NBA? Like, what, 2? 1, 2?
Maybe 2.
Like, maybe, you know what I mean? I'll say Castle and the Newton. Castle and Newton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know about Klingon will come off the bench type deal. And he'll come off the bench in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, but look at their guys from last year who were pretty, like, star-like last year. They're nothing in the NBA. So they're sort of like Hurley, though, like, he's not. A good example is like Calipari. You said it. Like, Calipari's like, oh, I'm getting these guys that are NBA lottery picks. It's like, okay, they're NBA lottery picks, but it doesn't mean that they're winners. It doesn't mean you can throw these 5 kids together and win in 1 year with them, right? And I think the coaches that sort of understand, I'm going to coach the team concept here, they're the ones that are going to be effective. Like, I'm not going to dismiss Duke, but without Coach K, they don't, like I said, like, let's see if they can win. The Houston Cougars, I can't buy into. I'm never going to dismiss Bill Self. Kansas can reload. So I think the Kansas Jayhawks are dangerous. North Carolina are always going to be North Carolina. And Nate Oates at Bama are going to be good. But like I said, there's no real reason why UConn can't win.
And here's the thing, Gabe, right? A great point was brought up, I think, by Raftery, I think it was, in the postgame. They fenced off the Northeast of the U.S. for recruits, which is the hotbed, right? New York, Boston, and that area. Besides Cooper Flag, who went to Montverde and now going to Duke University. They've done a really good job keeping those guys within their parameters, these New York City kids or guys from that area to stay and go to UConn. And, you know, you mentioned NIL and what it is today. I mean, if you're Duke and you're these guys here, how do you fence off your players in that part of the region? So I just think for UConn now, moving forward, if they can maintain this level of excellence, as I said before, they will be the favorites to win the Big East. And if they get a good draw for the tournament next March, they can run it again, Gabe, and get themselves back to the Final Four and perhaps win for the 3rd consecutive year.
I think they will. I don't really see any reason why. They could just sort of coast through the year next year, have their eyes on the big prize. I don't really know who they're going to lose from this team, to be honest. I mean, the Castle kid, he's the only one, right? I've seen in mock drafts, he's anywhere. I've seen some people like, oh, he's a top 3 pick. He's a top 10 pick. Yeah, dude, he also threw like a couple air balls last night. He's also like, he looks like he's 14 years old. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, but it goes to show just how damn thin the NBA draft is this year. So I'm not going to begrudge the kid. Yeah, I'm not going to begrudge him if they tell him, yeah, bro, you're a top 7 pick. So fine. Right? So he might be the only one. So I'm just saying, like, UConn will be fine. They'll roll along. But the last thing about the NIL, like, look at the Michigan Wolverine football team. They don't spend any money on stuff, bro. J.J. McCarthy made some money, but you'd be surprised, like, how little. Like, Michigan, they did, the state laws and this and that, they're trying to loosen it up. But, like, teams that's, like, if you look at teams that spend the most in NIL and compare it to victories, there's no correlation at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? Ole Miss spends a ton of money. Good for them. Like, Texas A&M spent a ton of money. Good for them. Like, if you get players like that only want money early, you're not going to get winning players, Mo. I guess that's what I was trying to get at. My long-winded point about that.
Right, but the thing is, if you get the right core in place, you can build off of that. And it goes back to my initial point in the first segment with you, Gabe. If Hurley goes to the transfer route and gets 1 or 2 guys, I fit his profile. I'm not saying that he's got to spend $200,000, $300,000, whatever it is, to bring in a guy, but he finds that third year, that junior or that redshirt senior that wants to get that one last run that fits. Because he said it before, Gabe, right? He'd rather have a mature player with less talent that he can kind of build up, out of Play-Doh and build
but his
him up
own
to
guy.
become NBA guys. Yeah, and that's the thing. Hurley finds that particular niche of a player he wants. If he gets that guy, boy, he can make that.
Well, that's the
guy
whole
into a
thing.
Dude who dominates.
That's the whole thing, like you said. But that's what championship coaches do, right?
Yeah,
they know the type of players that they need, that they want on their team. Right? Like, it's not about, well, this guy, Gino was talking about that with about Caitlin Clark. Because, there was a lot of talk, the sort of the headline, she wanted to play there, but he didn't recruit her. And, it was sort of like pitched that somehow he didn't think she was good or something like that. And he basically said, I recruited Paige Beckers when she was like 13 years old. Right?
Yeah.
He said, he goes, I don't operate like that. I don't just like swing around. And he talked about that. He goes, I don't chase players. I don't pay players. We don't work like that. He goes, we pick players that want to play here, and we pick players that we think are going to be able to fit into our system. And because, like there was two kids on Ohio State. I don't know their names, the twins. They're offensive linemen. They're going to Ohio State. They got offered a lot of money at other places and stuff. And they basically said, the only NL we care about is the NFL. And Ohio State will get us ready for the NFL. So that's what I'm saying too, Mo. Like in basketball, if you're a stud player, all right, I'm going to the NBA after the year. What do you even care, right? You know what I'm saying? You're going to go where the girls are hot, where the weather's nice, where you like the coach or whatever. Does it really matter whether you're getting $75K or $150K when you're about to get $38 million in 6 months? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like sort of the situation. Who can prepare you the most for the NBA, right? Sort of like the NFL. Who can prepare you the most for the NFL?
Right. And the one and done guys are there for one semester. That's what it is, right? You have to be eligible to play in the fall, in the winter semester of your sport. And that's what they're there for.
I'm sure they'll drop that soon. I don't see where there's not even students anymore. Like,
right. But,
I'm sure they'll drop that.
And the thing is, when you think about this new age college basketball that we have today, right? The so-called minnows are now becoming prominent players because they keep those guys for 3-4 years and go deeper in the tournament than what it once was before. So I just think that, in the unpredictable world of college basketball moving forward here, and what they're trying to do now, trying to outlaw this or try to put a guardrail around that, it's going to come down to how you figure out and get the right chemistry in place, because
it was
you end up being
boring,
like UConn.
But the entire season was not just the tournament, the entire season. The women's took center stage, and not just Caitlin Clark. Like the games were more entertaining. The men, it was a lack of superstars, and it's not even we can't even say it's because they go to the NBA. Who goes to the NBA? Look at the NBA draft, and we'll hit this on the other side. Look at the NBA draft coming up this year.
All European.
Yeah, there's exactly. There's the NBA are like, dude, all these kids in college suck. You know what I mean? Let's just call it for what it is. The NBA, they look at it, it's like, good for you. You're the 2-time player of the year, whatever. We don't care. Right? Oh, you scored 22 points in the SEC. Good for you, kid. We don't care. We're taking a kid from France, right, that didn't even play college ball. The best players, the best young kids, they laugh at the NCAA now. Victor Wembanyama didn't even consider playing you know what I mean? He was like, why would I play that? I played professional ball in France, and I joined the NBA, and he's killing it. The NCAA it's really like college basketball. We just watched it and bet on it, but it's kind of insignificant now. I'm just kind of being real.
What the difference between the men's and women's is that you had villains and characters in the women's game, right? Angel Reese, a perceived villain, right? Caitlin Clark, the superhero, right? Paige Beckers, renaissance from her knee injury to where she is today.
The undefeated team and Dawn Staley, everything.
South Carolina.
Plus, they have personality, Mo. You're right. They actually talk and have personality and stuff, right? Which the men don't.
And you can't find a Christian Leitner villain type of figure in college basketball on the men's draw. You can't get.
I can't handle it.
You know, but that's the thing, right? You can't find those villains. That's what made the men's game so fun to watch 20, 30 years ago. They would stay for 3-4 years, and you would develop a hate for that team or player or players. And now in the women's game, because they had the WNBA rule that you can't leave until 3 years out after your high school, whatever it is, you're going to have that love. You're going to have that hate for certain programs because of how they're being built up. They might say, well, bleep that. I'm not going to support them. I hate that team. But you're going to watch because it's great quality basketball that we're seeing from the women's game.
We'll see. Maybe it'll be some superstar that people are drawn to and stuff. Everything comes in waves. But, I was talking about this earlier about how I watched less college basketball this year than I did in a lot of years. Just because it was boring or it wasn't good. It was just sort of, this isn't, the NBA is just more entertaining. But, the NCAA, I respect UConn and what they did. I thought the NCAA tournament was all right. It didn't have those big dramatic moments and stuff like that. But as a whole, as you stated, let's just be real, man. College football is king. All right? College basketball is a filler mo for 3 weeks during the tournament. It is. It's all about football, baby. Football.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. The word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. The fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
SportsRage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage Late
This sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. All right, so let's talk about Zach Edey. We're kicking it with Mo Khan. And we were talking about the NBA draft, and it is crazy, guys. Like, if you look at the NBA mock drafts, you're basically like, who, what? Like you could give someone $1 million, Mo, to spell the names out of some of these kids. You'd be like, what? Like, where's he from? Where's he play? But it goes to show, we're just talking about it, the European players are better. Like, they're more prepared for the NBA. They've played in, a lot of these kids have played in against men in pro leagues, which, okay, it might not be the best pro league in the world, but they're playing against actual men and stuff. Like, Wembanyama is a good example. The French league's okay, but it's not like known as one of the top leagues in Europe. Like, it's not as good as Spain. It's not as good as Turkey, right? It's not as good as some of these other, I can go on, as Greece, as other countries, but it still prepared them well. So it really is amazing, man, when you look at, like, the NBA mock draft and the lack of NCAA players that are going to go very high in this draft.
Yeah, and again, we said before that this year's class is weak. It's next year's class that everyone's kind of tanking for, right? With Cooper Flagg and the kid from Africa who's going to go to Duke. The thing is, when you look at this core group that you have coming in, the French kid who played, I think, in Australia, these kids are maturing because they're leaving home at a young age, Gabe. And not to say that it's not the same thing for U.S. kids, but in the AAU system, there's a lot of coddling going on, right? A lot of protection of the property at place that, hey, we don't want to expose this kid and kind of keep him at minimum because we know his value is at an all-time high, and we just want to give him to the show and go from there. But whereas in these international countries, these kids are going to different countries to play basketball, being by themselves, learning how to grow and becoming mature adults. And they come in with a different attitude than the American player who might have been enabled to get to this point. And like, everyone's got different stories, Gabe. Everyone has long roads to get to where they want to be in life. But this thing for the European model right now, and you said it before the mock draft, I think in the top 10, I think you have 4 or 5 who are coming from overseas that can go in the lottery portion of the NBA draft in June.
Okay, I'm looking at a mock draft here. They got Dalton Knecht going 3rd overall.
Right. And
like, that's a reach. That's a reach. Like, if you look at him, I would think, like, I'm not an NBA scout, but if I look at this kid, I'm like, yeah, you know what? He's a 17 to 23 type of guy in the draft. You know what I mean? Like, in an older and a deeper draft. But I get it. He's a good shooter. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I guess teams going to reach a little bit. But Zach Edey's interesting because there wasn't a lot of NBA love for Zach Edey in the past, right? There was none last year. He went back due to that. Basically, they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. He played well for Team Canada, and people were surprised, remember, when he made the World Cup team. And he played, and remember, he went like 9 for 9 from the field, and, he played in select spots at certain times of the game and stuff, but he held his own against pro players and guys in the NBA that were on other teams there. Lit it up this year, 2-time player of the year, but his stock really did improve during the NCAA tournament, showing the little moves, showing the footwork that he had. He did impress people, and it went from sort of, well, you know what, he's a 2nd-round pick to, hey, you know what, maybe he's a late 1st-round pick to, a lot of people have him going like, 10 to 20 type of thing, mid-first rounder. What's your take on Zach Edey? And I think he's better than people realize. He doesn't shoot a 3. He's defensively going to have some problems with the speed of NBA players. But at the same point in time, he's still going to be able to give you like 12, 14 rebounds when he's on the court. He's still going to be able to score on anybody when he's out there for the most part, with the exception of like Wembanyama that could swat him. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't look at him as a star player or anything like that, but I think he's a good example, Mo. I don't know if you agree. I think he's a good example that he could help a good team. Sam Mitchell, longtime NBA vet, longtime head coach in the NBA. Sam Mitchell said that if he was the Oklahoma City Thunder, that he would take him. He's like, I'd throw him on the court with Chet Holmgren and just have like this massive size and just take up the paint. I've heard people saying the same thing about the Spurs. about throw him on the court with Wembanyama a bit and let Wembanyama run wild and let him take up some space defensively. I've heard the Milwaukee Bucks like him as well. What do you think about Zach Edey and where he fits in the NBA?
Right. So speaking to someone that is close enough to Team Canada, and I asked him at the time, like, what do you think about Zach Edey? He goes, he's not an NBA caliber player at that time because of his slow feet, but he's improved on his mechanics to become a better basketball player. But the thing is, Gabe, right, in NBA, the back to the net formula that we see in college ball this past season is non-existent in the NBA. I think what is going to happen for the Fast Nation perspective at the NBA draft combine and I think early or mid-May, whenever it might be in Chicago, they got to figure out what's his best skill sets at the NBA level. Because at Purdue, he's the man, right? He's scoring 28 a game, getting 50 rebounds and 5 million blocks per game. But in the NBA game, is he a role player? Is he a guy going to come off the bench? And you said it before,
yes.
Can he handle the speed of the players?
Yes and
right?
yes.
Right.
But isn't he a guy?
Is,
I thought Kenny Smith, and I respect Kenny a lot. I thought Kenny Smith said, he goes, I got to be honest with you, I didn't really think much of him as far as the NBA. But he goes, now watching him in the tournament, he goes, I think he could play in the NBA and give you 10, 14 minutes a night off the bench. Now, I think he can do a little bit more than that, but I think that sort of range, and he can give you 8 boards off the bench. He can score some points for you off the bench. But I don't think he's a star player by any stretch.
No, and because this NBA draft is rather weak, he moves up by 5 spots. That's reality. The supply and demand of the lack of supply of quality.
You're right, because there's no one else. They'll be like, yeah, whatever. There's no one else anyways. Right?
Exactly. And you're bang on, Gabe, that there's going to be a team that's going to say in the mid-range saying, you know what? He's not a starter, but he can be a spot guy for us if required to come in there. Because, again, he still has to work on his game to become a more refined professional player. He was dominating Big Ten talent, which wasn't the best this past season. And I think now moving towards the NBA, wherever he ends up, and hopefully he ends up in a good situation to kind of get the best coaching possible, he could be a 10 to 20-minute guy that gets you 8-9 points and maybe 5-6 rebounds. And if he does that, Gabe, that is a win-win for Zach Edey and whoever gets in the NBA.
Yeah, like we said, we're talking about a player that people didn't think that could play in the NBA. Then it went to a second round. Now, my guess right now, I know people always sort of remember what they saw last. I think he'll be a late first rounder. I think there'll be a good team that'll say, yeah, you know what, we'll just draft him. There's no one else anyways, and we're not counting on him. We'll just, we'll put him on the court, and we'll see how he does when we put him on the court. So the NFL draft is coming up right now. And I don't know, Mo, I'm as lost as I was like 2 months ago. Now we're 2 weeks into this. Like, who knows, bro? Like, I don't think the teams know. They don't know. Like, I don't think the Washington Commanders know who they're taking with the second pick yet. Are they locked in? Do they secretly love Jaden Daniels? Do they like Drake May? I don't know. I don't think it's J.J. McCarthy. But for the record, Boston media, the beat writer for the New England Patriots, and a couple of them are all saying that the Patriots are in love with J.J. McCarthy, and they think they're going to take J.J. with the third pick. I don't know. I don't think that he's going to go second to Washington. I think Jaden Daniels will be second to Washington. It wouldn't shock me, though, if McCarthy ended up going to the New England Patriots, but I really don't know at this point anymore, Mo. One bet that I'm taking, I'm going to roll the dice that Joe Alt is the 5th pick, the offensive lineman out of Notre Dame, that the Chargers take him, that Harbaugh goes meat and potatoes, O-line, Mo.
What's the line on him right now, going 5th? Do you have to know, Gabe?
Plus 500. No? Plus 500.
It's a great value to have for Joe Alt, right? And the thing is, though, the counterpoint to that is that the Chargers have invested on the O-line through the draft and free agency the last couple of years. So are they going to do it again? Because they have holes everywhere else that they have to fill. And I think in the best case scenario for Jim Harbaugh and for his staff is that if McCarthy gets by 4 with Arizona and they fall to 5, a team's going to call up here and offer multiple picks, maybe 2 ones this year and then 1 next year to get up to number 5. But I think in this situation now for where we are, Gabe, the smokescreen show is full force now, right? The Patriots are allegedly in love with J.J. McCarthy. Well, I think what that is more of a smokescreen play here and trying to have someone in the top three take him if they are kind of on the fence of who they want, whether it's Drake May or Jaden Daniels, and say, hey, we'll take him and play your poker chips well, where, hey, you might end up with Daniels and Drake May at number 3, number 4. So this thing now, this situation going towards the final 2 weeks, Gabe, there's going to be a lot of miscues, a lot of fork in the road moments here that people are going to have a little twist and kill.
Listen, we always say you don't believe anything, but I don't think that it's teams. People always say that, oh, these teams are trying to do this and they're trying to do that through the media. What, do you think like other NFL GMs are that stupid that they're watching ESPN? Oh, my God, I can't believe they're saying this. They already know everything. I think it's the media that just speculates on things. We hear this. We likes this. We like that. Of course they like them. They like all these people right after. But I don't think, like, people, there's a big thing. Everyone and a lot of people, I see stories a lot that Harbaugh is hyping up J.J. McCarthy so much because he's trying to get people to trade for him. So what? Do people honestly believe that what Harbaugh says at some press conference is going to influence an NFL general manager to make a decision? Oh, Harbaugh said that he's my favorite guy. I better take him. You know what I mean? Like it's just preposterous. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you actually think about it, Mo. Right?
But Gabe, but think about this, Gabe, right? For all the hype the NFL draft comes with, right? We always forecast there's going to be 5 million trades in the first round, and there ends up being like a third-round pick trade in the first round, right? Nothing happens from it. So who's going to have the cojones to move up into the top 4 and mortgage their future?
I don't know if anyone does. I don't know. I don't think anyone does.
Right, but
I don't think they do. I think people are going to call the bluff. People are going to say, you know what? I'm not going to do it because who's going to take them, right? I mean, it's fascinating to see how it's going to play out, but I'm starting to think Minnesota aren't going to get hijacked. And that Minnesota might just say, you know what? We'll take Michael Penix with the 11th pick. Seriously, O'Connell won with Nick Mullins at quarterback. He'll be happy with Bo Nix. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure teams are going to go crazy, like as crazy as people think. Like, that's just me. I'm not sure people are going to hop up for these quarterbacks.
The weight of gold in this situation is far too rich because we go back to the Trey Lance trade that the Niners made to move up to get Trey Lance. They gave up 3 runs for him, right? And that's for Trey Lance, who had maybe 5 passing attempts in his college career. For J.J. McCarthy or for whoever might go at number 4 for the 4th quarterback, are you willing to give up 3 1s, 2 2s, and maybe a player, 6 players? I'm not sure, Gabe. It's a lot of money for the 4th best quarterback supposedly on the draft board.
I do think, though, and I brought it up earlier, the prop is over under 4.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I do think there'll be 5 of them. I think Penix, people like Penix. I think Penix is going to go higher than a lot of people originally thought, actually. I don't think Penix gets through 13, Mo. Great stuff as always, Mo.
Be good.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. Like, the word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. Like, the fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
SportsRage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage Late
Sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Quickest Saturday minutes of sports talk and television. Man, this show went by fast this evening. All right, so let's do a quick check here right now. It's one of those nights at Petco tonight that there was no comeback in the works. It's 5-1 right now in the bottom of the ninth inning. Disappointing. You know, you come back, you score 9 runs, you want to keep that momentum going, and it matters, right? Every game matters in baseball. You know, as far as the standings are concerned. Like, these games, they count in the standings every bit as much. Like, a lot of teams think, well, you know, it's early in the season and, you know, it's this and that. It's like, yeah, it is and it isn't. And it's good to rack up these little mini win streaks when you can. Disappointing tonight that they were unable to follow up the effort against the Chicago Cubs this evening. So tomorrow night, Brady Cannon's going to step up, and then the Raging Red Cam Stewart's on the road this week. And in fact, he went to the New Jersey Devil Toronto Maple Leaf hockey game with Scott Farrell tonight. And he's going on Thursday night to the Toronto Maple Leafs and the, is it the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Islanders? I think it's the Canadiens and Islanders on Thursday with George Kurtz. Kurtz is going to be with us tomorrow, but so is Brady Cannon. It's Masters week this week, and Brady's the best in the business, so I look forward to seeing what he has to say about the Masters. Scotty Scheffler seems to be a player that a lot of bettors and people are not being, the odds are not scaring him away from, despite the fact that he's like plus 450 only. A lot of people think that he is the play. We'll see what Brady Cannon has to say. I had a gut feel about Ludwig Aberg. I thought it used to be Aberg, but now he's like, it's Aberg or whatever the hell, whatever. Ludwig. Let's call him Ludwig. He's 25-1. I expect him to play well, but players that play in their first Masters don't win. We'll get into that. We'll go through all the trends for the Masters tomorrow night. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.